Live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 9 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight. Britain's borders have been flung open to the people of Gaza. But who is the judge? Well, Hugo Benedict Norton-Taylor, the son of an ex-Guardian journalist, who has been posting stuff like this on social media.
I want to tell whoever is willing to listen that what's happening now in Gaza is a genocide.
Are activist judges ruining this country? Also,
you and your brother, yeah, I'm a good guy. Habibi, God, pack that up because it's not going to work on the day of judgment.
I've got a big update for you on the case of the radical Islamic preachers who are coming to Britain and...
Quote, as a consequence of the Israeli government's indiscriminate attempts to eliminate Hamas.
They put the complete opposite argument. She talks about on top of her breath. She has no idea what she's talking about.
Did Kemi Badenoch have another shocker today? Is she up to the job? Plus...
You'll be absolutely fine, okay? You'll be fine. Oh my God. You'll be fine. 3, 2, 1, go. Here we go.
Keep your feet down. Feet up.
Meghan Markle is accused of using the Invictus Games for shameless self-promotion. She recorded a load of clips and then left early. And...
Christians have a right to express their beliefs publicly.
They do indeed. A major victory as a teacher sacked for speaking out against the teaching of LGBT issues at primary schools wins a landmark court case. On my panel tonight is the Director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, landlord and activist Adam Brooks, and the broadcaster and journalist Nina Mishkov. Oh, and so this is Elon Musk's son.
We need to free the builders of America to build. And if we do that, that means, I think, you get the economic growth.
Does he remind you of anyone?
Of F Company Scots Guards.
Get ready, Britain, here we go. Get these Islamists out of Britain. Next.
Good evening. The top stories. The UK Defence Secretary says welcoming Ukraine to NATO will take some time, as Donald Trump says he and Vladimir Putin had agreed to start negotiations on ending the war in Ukraine in a call today. John Healey said the focus for now should be on ensuring Kyiv is in a strong position going into any potential peace talks after the US insisted the country's membership of the military alliance was not a realistic prospect. Well, Mr. Trump said in a post on his social media platform today about his call with the Russian president, "We've also agreed to have our respective teams start negotiations immediately." Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has also spoken to the US president. They reportedly discussed opportunities to achieve peace and the preparation of a document governing security and economic cooperation. Elsewhere, Sir Keir Starmer and the leader of the opposition clashed over immigration at Prime Minister's Questions today. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch repeatedly asked the Prime Minister why a Gazan family of 6 was allowed to come to the UK under a scheme intended for Ukrainians and if that loophole would be closed.
There are millions of people all around the world in terrible situations. We cannot help them all, and we certainly cannot bring them all here. Will he commit to bringing forward that new legislation or amending his borders bill?
Prime Minister. Well, Mr. Speaker, I've already said the Home Secretary has already got her team working on closing this loophole. We don't need to wait for that. We're getting on with that because we're taking control. They lost control of immigration. We had nearly 1 million people come into this country, had an open borders experiment. On a Monday of this week, they voted against increased powers to deal with those that are running the vile trade of people smuggling. Same old Tories, open borders, empty promises.
In other news, a Christian school worker who was sacked after sharing social media posts about the teaching of LGBT+ relationships in schools has won a Court of Appeal battle. Christy Higgs lost her role at Farmer School in Fairford in Gloucestershire in 2019. Her dismissal from the secondary school came after she shared Facebook posts criticising plans to teach about LGBT+ relationships in those primary schools. The mother of two challenged a June 2023 Employment Appeal Tribunal judgment. It had ruled in her favour but sent the case back to an employment tribunal for a fresh decision over whether her dismissal was lawful. Well, today, 3 judges ruled in her favour and found that decision to take the case back to the tribunal unlawful. And the Home Office has tightened the rules on becoming a British citizen, making it almost impossible for those arriving in small boats to apply successfully. Previously, refugees who'd reached the UK by irregular routes could apply, but only after being in the country for 10 years. However, the new guidance now advises authorities to reject an application if the person arrived illegally. It could prevent thousands of refugees from becoming British citizens despite having been granted asylum. And those are the latest headlines for now. It's over to Patrick.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Last night, I broke the news that a procession of radical Islamic preachers are set to descend on Britain in the coming days.
So you and your brother, yeah, I'm a good guy. Habibi, God, pack that up because it's not going to work on the day of judgment. Any person that misses one salah, one, not 2, 1 salah, you miss 1 salah for no reason. You're worse than a murderer, you're worse than a rapist, you're worse than a terrorist, you're worse than a pedophile in the eyes of Allah.
Mohammed Hoblos has been banned from other European countries for extremist views, like reportedly supporting the actions of Hamas. And then, of course, there's Mufti Munir, who says stuff like this.
You're trying to take jihad from the Kitab and the Sunnah, is trying to take sweetness out of honey.
If it doesn't have a symbol of kufr, it doesn't have the name of a non-Muslim, then perhaps it's permissible to wear it. Whereas if you buy other clothes, designer clothes, you may be supporting homosexuals, as we said. Or you may be supporting people that bomb our brothers in Palestine.
So they are due to take part in a tour of the UK, and you can see it on the lovely flyer there, just in case you're interested. I think tickets are probably still available. Today, we contacted all the venues that they are due to attend and the companies who run them. And I'm pleased to say that there are now major questions as to whether these events will actually go ahead. So these include the Hilton Doubletree in Glasgow. Well, we asked them if they were happy to platform what many may regard as Islamic extremism. Surely a company like the Hilton don't want to be associated with that. Leeds United Football Club, it seems, at Ellen Road, well, we sent them the clips of the radical preachers in full flow. Well, they haven't got back to us yet, but I did call the Atrium in London, and they said that they now had a massive question mark over the event and that it's possible the organisers would have to find another venue. And the Werner Suite in Manchester actually thanked us, to their credit, for letting them know about these speakers and what they'd said in the past. And they said that they have now contacted the charity, which is called One Ummah, and they are going to make a decision after they've spoken with them. Well, look, all of the venues have been sent clips like this.
They get to kill someone, they kill someone. Every single opportunity. And they have the nerve to have a supposed Star of David. And they supposedly attribute themselves to David. David has nothing to do with you. Solomon has nothing to do with you. You have nothing to do with David. You have nothing to do with Solomon. You have bloodlust. You lust for slaughter and the murdering of people and the manipulation of people. You're evil.
So it's up to them if they want to have to justify to the nation why they allowed speakers who think that paedophiles who go to daily prayer are better than ordinary citizens, or people who appear to say that Jews are evil and seemingly promote jihad. It's up to them if they want to justify to the nation, isn't it, why they allowed them to speak at their venues. But I don't think that maybe be that good for business, would it? But the big question, of course, is this. Shouldn't this lot be banned from entering the country to begin with? Well, it's now emerged that Mohammed Hoblos, the man deemed too extreme for Germany and the Netherlands, is due to speak at a new mosque in Middlesbrough. And I'm pleased to say that I'm joined now by the Mayor for Tees Valley, Ben Houchen, who thinks that Mr Hoblos should not only be banned from Middlesbrough, but probably shouldn't be allowed in the country at all. Ben, thank you very much. Great to have you on the show. So what's going on here, then? You trying to get him barred from Britain, are you?
Well, I think it shouldn't really be up to me to do that. It should be pretty common sense that the Home Office and this government should have rules in place that don't allow these types of extremist views and these types of extremist individuals to set foot on UK soil. It's an absolute privilege to visit our country, never mind want to stay here. And the fact that we even have to raise this with the Home Secretary and the government to try and get this stopped and stop these people from coming to the UK seems farcical in itself.
What kind of message do you think it would send if the Home Office is perfectly happy for Mohammed Hoblos, who's too extreme for the Netherlands and Germany, to come to a new mosque in Middlesbrough?
I think it sends completely the wrong message, obviously, and what's really sad is that actually it's taken people like myself and a couple of others to raise this with the government before they've even started to look at this and take it seriously. And we've heard a minister in Parliament today make kind of warm references to it, but hasn't committed to stopping these people from coming, and even talks about some of the limited ability to disrupt people's visas to come to the UK. You know, if this government is sovereign, we left the European Union for a reason. The fact that the European Union, through Schengen, have completely banned these people from coming in, and now we're a soft touch compared to our European partners, says that there's something wrong with the system.
Do I have to ask you, though, Ben, concern that I've got is clearly how many people in Britain want to pay money to go and see this lot speak. And I don't know about your views on this new mosque. I don't know it personally, obviously. Is that not a slight concern, really, that it appears that people have digested, certainly in the case of Mohammed Hoblos, his content, which appears to include very extreme things and potentially supporting Hamas, etc., and have thought, well, we'll welcome him to our venue and maybe our congregation, our flock, would like to hear from him?
Well, it's interesting. We've been trying to find out about the community centre venue that he'll be supposedly coming to in Middlesbrough, and it's a relatively new venue. And actually, I would say we've got a fantastic community of Muslims in Middlesbrough, and actually they have rejected in some of the more established mosques in the area his request to speak at those mosques. So this isn't just me, this isn't a small section of the Teesside community. We are, irrespective of race or background or religion, rejecting this individual. And it seems to me that there is an extremist kind of thread that seems to be using these more low-key, less established venues to try and infiltrate communities and spread their hate.
It's interesting as well because I contacted one of the venues, as you probably just heard earlier on, and they are, to their credit, they are just a big venue in Manchester. They do a lot of weddings and things. So they got booked, as far as they were concerned, by a charity. So they thought they were hosting some kind of charity day. And we said to them, well, actually, have you seen these videos of what these blokes are saying? And they were shocked. So, you know, there appears to be, anyway, a bit of deception here. But look, Ben, just to round us off, as far as you're concerned, you think that the Home Office, Border Force, whatever, should just have the powers to just not let this lot set foot off a plane, you think, really?
I mean, if we are a sovereign nation and we want the government that we elect to do what the will of the people is, and we want to get rid of, never mind illegal immigration, but these extremist people who, by any common sense of the imagination, should not be allowed to set foot on our soil. If we do not have a government and a system that allows us to pull the trigger and get rid of these people and not allow them entry, which is so blindingly obvious, then the system's broken and needs looking at. And this government needs to step in. The Home Secretary needs to use all of the powers at their disposal to stop these people not just coming to Teesside, but coming to the UK entirely.
Well, Ben, look, can I just say a massive thank you to you for coming on the show as well, and good luck with everything. Hopefully we're not talking in a couple of weeks' time about Mohammed Hoblos having, found his way into Middlesbrough, but it's the Mayor for Tees Valley there, Ben Houchen. There we go. Right, I'm going to whiz ourselves over to the panel this evening. We've got the Director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood. We've got landlord and activist Adam Brooks, and journalist and broadcaster Nina Mishkov. Thank you very much. Great to have you all on the show. Mark, I'll start with you. Can't we just stop them coming?
Yeah, we can. And I think, if I've understood it correctly, the system exists. If the Home Secretary believes that your presence in the country would not be conducive to the public good, I believe is the test, the Home Secretary can ban you. Ben Hanchin was quite right. Worth pointing out, he's the most powerful Conservative in the country these days, Ben Hanchin. Quite right that this is a slam-dunk, open and shut case, isn't it? So I'm not so worried about the system. I think we've got the right rules. The Home Secretary should have that power. What I'm scratching my head about is why they haven't exercised it yet. When I was contacted by your research team earlier today with this story, 3 or 4 clicks looking at 2 or 3 stories, it's an open and shut case. It's not remotely marginal. So I would expect the Home Secretary to, by now, have already said these people are not welcome on British shores.
I think there is also now a responsibility of these venues. Not a single venue where these are due to talk can legitimately say they're not aware of the things that we've sent. We have sent them every single clip that we have found, every single news article that we have found for them. So, Adam, I would expect these venues to step up and say, well, hang on a minute, we don't condone this.
100%. And by platforming these type of people, they're condoning what these people say. At the end of the day, some of the clips that we've seen are very anti-Semitic. Some of the clips I've seen today in my research calling for death to Jews, death to homosexual men, death to adulterers, encouraging stoning, but not just stoning, violent stoning to death. Now, if we can stop Geert Wilders coming into this country in 2009, I believe it was, we can stop people like this. Now, we've got 45,000 around Islamist extremists on our terror watch list. Now, it only takes one to be inspired by these talks, whether it be in a mosque or at these events, and suddenly we could have a terrorist attack on the back of this. The government needs to step up, Yvette Cooper needs to step up and start putting the people of Britain first.
Yeah, I wonder as well, what kind of message it sends out to Britain's Jewish community as well. The idea that we would appear to be allowing people like Mohammed Hoblos in to go and spew whatever they want to spew at these Islamic centres, etc. It doesn't, or in the case of the one in Glasgow, just a Hilton hotel, doesn't really seem like that's particularly great for community cohesion.
No, it's dreadful. It's absolutely dreadful. I mean, the thing is, you've got a bit of a scoop today, haven't you? And perhaps the government and the Home Office is still catching up, because if the venues don't know what's about to happen if it goes ahead, I can't imagine for a moment it will go ahead. I mean, like everybody else, I'm a huge proponent of free speech and how, I really applaud, the fact that we can hear all sorts of views. But that is just too extreme. It's just absolutely not on. And I don't know what kind of visa would they have got? I don't understand that. And how would they have got that visa? We need to know. But I think, give the government time to have a go at them.
Yeah, well, hopefully they do. I mean, the Home Office do make the case. They say, well, look, we don't comment on individual cases. My concern is that they just won't do anything about it, and there appears to be some evidence to suggest that they won't.
Yourself and GB News will do a programme on all these venues that are going to platform these, and I expect to see that.
Yeah.
And I know you will push for that.
They are all rather small venues. I mean, I can't imagine that they're vast. They haven't got sort of hundreds or thousands. Well, it's not exactly Peter Kay at a stadium, is it?
You're right. It's not a stadium tour, but a couple of them are quite sizable venues.
The Atrium in London, I know, if it's the one I'm thinking of. I mean, yes, it's not a stadium, but you could get a few hundred people there.
You could. That leads me on to my next question mark, which is, for me, it's a concern how many people are potentially willing to go and turn up to see these people talk, and what that says about their state of mind.
Yes, I think that's absolutely right. I mean, you should probably look at who's bought these tickets and add them to the terror watch list if they're not already on it. I mean, I suppose the size of the venue doesn't necessarily indicate how many people would have turned up. There's a little bit of guesswork there. I mean, props to GB News for informing the venues of this. But I'm scratching my head a bit. I would have thought if you book a venue, they should do some preliminary research into who you are, whether you're, an extremist political organisation, an extremist religious organisation. Seems they've just sort of taken the deposit, booked the room.
Well, let me just tell you now, the way this country is, if GB News wanted to hold a party there or a conference, there would be eyebrows raised by certain staff members of these venues. But the danger isn't just the people that are at these venues. We've now got maybe 5 extremists that are all talking and agreeing with each other that are going to be filmed and put on YouTube and blasted all around Britain to millions of young people. and that really could be a dangerous...
You can't stop that, though.
Well, the thing is, first of all, have they sold any tickets? We don't know. I mean, how many tickets have they sold? What did they say that they were? I mean, you know, together as one, it looks sort of... Well, it could be quite benign.
It's got a couple of hallmarks. I will let you finish on this, but it's a good point that you raised there, because it's got some of the hallmarks of some of the old classics. I don't know if we can bring that back up there, but, you know, it's got the veneer of charity. So One Umma is at face value a charitable organisation. Together as one... You know, you've got them there talking as if they're kind of in the heavens, really. You know, if you were just a casual observer to that, you would think, oh, it's just nice and peaceful. You don't know that chap second from the left there, Mohammed Hoblos, has said that, you know, as far as he's concerned, reportedly, he's all right with Hamas. I mean, potentially, it's like one of the world's worst boy bands on that, on that poster.
Exactly. But the thing is, I question this business of the mosque. Would someone like that be allowed to come in and speak within the mosque, and would that be monitored or not? That's what I don't know. I mean, these are kind of... These are not religious venues. They are normal venues, and so anybody could come. If they are... I mean, what happened to Ansam Chowdhury? Was it...
Yeah, he's in various different stages of legality, I think.
Exactly, but what happened to him? I mean, I don't think the authorities did anything about him until he'd said made public statements. But within the mosque, are they allowed to do that?
I'm not expecting the Home Secretary or the Home Office to be aware of every event happening at every venue in Britain. But once Ben Hampshire has brought it to their attention, I would have thought it's a decision that could be made in minutes.
There can be no excuse now. There can be no excuse at all, you know, in terms of the authorities, in terms of the venues. We've made it abundantly clear to absolutely everybody exactly who these people are. And if they choose to host them, well, then, you know, that's on them, isn't it? But, right, OK, great start, guys. Thank you very, very much. Loads still to come. But before I tell you exactly what I've got coming up, of course, it is your chance to win our latest Great British giveaway. We have 2 amazing prize bundles to be won. Here's all the details you need.
We're doubling your chances to win in our latest Great British giveaway, with 2 fabulous prize bundles up for grabs. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. And the best news is 2 lucky winners are going to win. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. 1 entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Coming up, after a gruelling 6-year legal battle, a school worker has won a Court of Appeal battle after she was hounded out of her job just for her Christian beliefs. So I'll reveal what she was sacked for when I'm joined by her lawyer in a few minutes' time. But first...
Quote, as a consequence of the Israeli government's indiscriminate attempts to eliminate Hamas.
They put the complete opposite argument. She talks about on top of her breath. She has no idea what she's talking about.
I mean, she is making Keir Starmer look quite good at the minute, and that is difficult, I think. But Kemi Baden, another lacklustre performance today at PMQs. I'm just going to ask a straightforward question. We're going to debate it. I'm quite intrigued to see how you at home feel about it. Is she up to the job? That's next.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and this is GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
It's the body image thing that concerns me. It's young girls watching Love Island and really skinny girls and young boys
hit the gym after this. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, they're seeing perfect bodies on the screen.
You don't need to go in the gym, Maymoon. You look gorgeous as you are, love.
I know. You see, the reason I don't enter anything like that, Kerry, is you know
you're going to win.
Exactly. And it's not fair. It's not fair, I think, on everybody else being there.
It's not fair.
No.
But Kerry, what do you think about the body image thing? You know, when you talk about your daughter, is that something that you'd worry about, her comparing herself to the likes of what she sees on the screen?
Now, this is where there's a conflict of interest for me because I've been brought up in this industry since I was 17, so it's massively affected me. I mean, when you're put on the front cover of magazines after having a baby with a stretch mark in the circle of shame, you know, it does do a psychological effect on you. I think a lot of celebrities who've been around for so many years as I have been affected by that. But everyone has to bear in mind, I've had my children. I'm in my 40s. I feel I'm entitled to have my tweaks and try and improve on what I think are going down south and health and safety, tripping over any things that I don't want to be tripping over anymore. But I definitely do believe, I mean, majority of the young girls that go on Love Island, they all have the same big lips, the same big eyelashes, all the butt implants, and they're barely in their 20s. You know, it's if you go to the airport now, I remember going to the airport and I looked around and all the girls looked exactly the same.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. Coming up, are Christian beliefs under threat in the UK? And I think it's time to get tough on these immigration judges, isn't it? But first, is Kemi Badenoch up to the job? It's time for the head-to-head. Well, there are whispers tonight about unease among Tory backbenchers after their leader, Kemi Badenoch's lacklustre performance at PMQs in Parliament earlier today. So the Prime Minister repeatedly accused her of failing to do her research and having, quote, no idea what she's talking about as they clashed over a Gaza migrant ruling and the Attorney-General, our friend, Lord Hermer.
The Conservative government established the Ukraine Family Scheme. A family of 6 from Gaza have applied to live in Britain using this scheme, and a judge has now ruled in their favour. This is not what the scheme was designed to do.
She hasn't quite done her homework because the decision in question was taken under the last government, according to the legal framework of the last government.
Does he agree that we should legislate even if lawyers warn that this might be incompatible with human rights law?
Hi, Minister. She complains about scripted answers and questions. Her script doesn't allow her to listen to the answer. She asked me if we're going to change the law and close the loophole in question 1. I said yes. She asked me again in question 2, and I said yes. She asked me again in question 3. It's still yes.
So tonight I am asking, is Kemi Badenoch up to the job? Let me know what you think. Go to gbnews.com/yoursay. We're going head-to-head on this. Our former Labour Minister Dennis McShane and former Tory MP Alex Stafford. Both of you, thank you very much. Absolute pleasure. Alex, I'll start with you if that's OK. Pretty straightforward. Do you think Kemi Badenoch is up to the job?
Definitely. I think she's doing a great job. She's rebuilding the party. I think you've got to remember where the Tory party came from in the last year. We were our biggest defeat for centuries. We've lost so many MPs. The public don't believe what we say. They didn't trust what we say. It's a long road back to power in 4 or 5 years' time, and Kemi has really started doing that. She started strongly. And one thing that I would say is look at the council election results, the by-elections. The Tories are up about 25 council seats since the general election, more than any other party. So it shows that actually they are getting cut through. People realise that Kemi is actually rebuilding the party. But also, it does take time. Rome wasn't built in a day. It's going to take several years for the public to trust us and actually listen to us again. I think Kemi started strong, and she'll go on, keep going.
I mean, one of Keir Starmer's quotes-unquote zingers today, Dennis, was when she raised the issue of a immigration border czar working from Finland, actually, not working from Britain. He came out and he said, all guns blazing, well, actually, he was working from Finland under the Tories, and now... Well, subsequently to that, Kemi Badenoch has now accused him of misleading the House, because apparently it turns out that maybe he didn't get his facts right. So do you think that she is up to the job, Dennis?
Look, I'm a very polite person. Alex and I went to the same school, a good Catholic school, and we were taught always to be very kind to ladies who weren't necessarily the brightest on the street. And Kemi's problem is, I mean, I used to assist Tony Blair preparing for Prime Minister's questions. I mean, it was insane. He asked so many questions. Is this right? Is this right? And she just wanders in, having read the Daily Telegraph and the Daily Mail, two wonderful papers we all love and adore, but they just don't any longer produce accurate reports. And Starmer, I mean, Sir Keir can't believe his luck, because he's not very lucky in so many other areas, but she's presenting him with, you know, she's like Poundland, Mrs. Poundland, Nigel Farage. I mean, she just hasn't got it yet. It may come. Maybe if Alex trains her a bit, she will come.
I would put it to you, Alex, that, you know, there have been numerous times when the perception has been that she's missed the mark. You know, we had farmers' protests taking place literally right outside the House of Commons. I don't think she raised that with Keir Starmer at the time. Keir Starmer was in a little bit of hot water when it came to what may or may not have happened with a voice coach on Christmas Eve in his office. There was also the Chagos deal. She didn't really seem to go off on that. She went off on oil and gas. Is she getting bad advice, do you think?
No, I think she's getting good advice. She's looking at the whole scheme of things. I think a few weeks ago, she led out PMQs on education. I think some of the media after PMQs said, why are you leading on education? But because of some of the work she did on education at PMQs, we actually had Labour rowing back on some of their mad education decisions. And that is the job of the opposition, of Kemi and the opposition. It's not just about the quick media hits that day, the ephemeral stuff. It's actually making a serious opposition, getting serious policy changes.
So it's not true, Alex. It's not true, Alex, that behind the scenes the Tories are saying that she's only got until May 2026, otherwise they're going to rope Jenrick in.
No, I think there's absolutely no appetite at the moment to change leader. We've changed enough leaders over the last couple of years, and we know what the public thinks of that. I think what we do need is that period of stability and that regrowth. Because, as I said, we really collapsed in the polls initially at the last general election. We should build up again, and instability is the last thing we need. I think every Tory MP that I've spoken to understands we need to get the stability, get the confidence back from the public, which we have lost. And it's quite refreshing when I hear Kemi day in, day out saying it's a new leadership, we've changed, and accepting we didn't get everything right when we were in government, but it'll take time to make...
Well, Dennis, I'll put it to you that actually, to be honest with you, it doesn't really matter whether or not Kemi Badenoch's any good, because Keir Starmer is so bad and so universally disliked at the minute that actually, you know, you could put a pig in a ribbon against him and they'd probably win the next election.
Patrick, I've been out canvassing tonight for Labour councillor in a by-election in a council in London. They're not talking about this. I mean, I would honestly and sincerely, respectfully say to everybody, don't confuse Daily Mail, Sun, Daily Express, Daily Telegraph headlines with...
Or don't confuse London with the rest of the country, Dennis. That's another way of looking at it, isn't it?
I'm in Sheffield regularly, where my daughter lives. So, I mean, I feel sorry for Kemi. It's an awful job. I mean, Labour's got the biggest parliamentary majority since 1834. And to take all that on, it's very hard. She isn't yet recalibrating. I mean, what Tony Blair did, what others did, was come out and say, that policy's wrong, that policy's rubbish, that policy has to go. She's still sticking to the nonsense from Liz Truss and Boris Johnson and all the rest of it. So it's up to Alex, I think, and people in the rest of the party to say, I'd love to come back as an MP. I can't do it, Kemi, unless you change an awful lot of your tunes.
Well, look, hey, to be fair, there is a long way to go, a very long way to go, and, you know, we'll have to wait and see what happens. But both of you, can I just say a massive thank you for coming on tonight. Great to have that little bit of back and forth. Former Labour Minister Dennis McShane, the former Tory MP Alex Stafford, maybe soon to be advisor to the Leader of the Opposition as well. We'll have to wait and see, won't we? But anyway, coming up.
I really don't want to do it.
No, come on, you'll be absolutely fine. Okay. You'll be fine.
Oh my God.
You'll be fine. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
Keep your feet down.
So, Meghan Markle left Prince Harry behind at the Invictus Games, jetted back to California. That's amid accusations that she's just using those games as yet another PR stunt. I'm going to talk about that shortly. Oh, and at 10 p.m, I'm going to reveal the shocking bias in our judiciary when it comes to migrants and just ask how much longer can we go on like this, really. But first, after a mammoth legal battle, a school worker has won a Court of Appeal case after she was hounded out of her job just for having Christian beliefs. I'm going to reveal exactly what she was sacked for. I'm going to be joined by her victorious lawyer next.
I hope it doesn't rain.
Don't worry about it.
It'll spoil our holiday.
Relax, we're totally covered.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Heavy showers and thunderstorms affecting the Adriatic coastline, but elsewhere it should be mostly settled. These heavy showers could produce quite a lot of rain, particularly across southern parts of Croatia, Albania and parts of Greece. Some thunder and lightning mixed in with those too. But as we move our way further west across the Mediterranean, it's largely dominated by high pressure, so largely settled, particularly for Madeira and Tenerife, where we're likely to see the best of the sunshine. Showers continuing for a time before becoming more settled.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Evening. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. We'll keep a lot of cloud tomorrow, and if anything, for many of us feeling a little bit colder, but we should see maybe a few more sunny spells, particularly in parts of the west. We've still got easterly winds with high pressure out east, low pressure out west, and the UK kind of in this no man's land in between. The cloud thick enough for a little bit of drizzle here and there over parts of central and eastern England through the night, but most places staying dry. Clear skies across western Scotland will allow a frost here, and also some frost is likely over northwest England, maybe West Wales, where we do have also some breaks in the cloud. Temperatures elsewhere where it's cloudy, mostly holding up at 2 or 3 Celsius. Still quite breezy on some of these North Sea coasts, but the winds generally a little lighter than they have been through the day today. And as I mentioned, I'm a bit more optimistic for some brighter skies tomorrow. Again, parts of southwest England, West Wales, but even further east, it may brighten up at times. Quite cloudy again for northeast England, eastern Scotland, maybe a few breaks in the cloud for Northern Ireland. Certainly some good breaks in the cloud across western Scotland, so some sunny spells here again, but it does of course mean overnight we'll see that frost forming. So a chilly start as we go through the day. Not a great deal of change, probably not as many light showers as today, but still the odd one here and there over the Midlands, eastern England. The winds will pick up in the southwest as we go through the day, as we'll start to see cloud thickening here. But generally, further east, the wind's a little lighter than today. But if anything, it's going to be colder. Temperatures only 4 or 5 degrees Celsius. We'll have a frost again, where we've got clear skies through Thursday night into Friday morning. Thicker cloud further west. Some drizzly rain at times for West Wales, Devon, Cornwall and Northern Ireland. Many eastern and central parts dry. But again, a better chance of some breaks in the cloud. Still on the chilly side, however, slowly turning a little milder as we head through into the weekend. Bye for now.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. So, coming up, why has Meghan Markle left the Invictus Games early, leaving Harry behind? But first, after a gruelling 6-year battle, a Christian teaching assistant who was sacked after sharing social media posts about LGBT relationships has today won a landmark legal battle. Christy Higgs was dismissed from Farmore's School in Fairford in 2019 after she posted critical comments on social media about her daughter's school introducing gender identity treatment. Mrs Higgs hailed the ruling as a win for free speech outside the court this morning.
Expressing biblical Christian teaching on gender and sexuality may appear to be offensive to those who hold the opposite views, but as today's judgment signals, Christians have a right to express their beliefs publicly. Today's judgment is as important for free speech as it is for freedom of religion.
Well, I'm very pleased to be joined now by Christy Higgs' lawyer, Michael Phillips. Michael, thank you very much. Tremendous to have you on the show. So a great victory for you to say. How did this get this far? And could you just tell our viewers and our listeners, what exactly was it that Christy was saying or sharing?
Back in October, almost 7 years ago, 6.5 or so years ago, she shared a couple of posts concerning her concerns about gender ideology. And she did it on a private Facebook group. She did it to her friends, or what she believed were her friends. And then what happened was this, is that it then got reported back to the school that she had posted. In fact, she reposted a number, well, first of all, a petition, and also a number of other messages from America about this kind of stuff which is infiltrating the schools. And she just simply said this. One of the quotes here is that kindergarten and first grade children are being primed for a gender fluid society. And another quote was that they are busy recruiting children for the transgender roster. Their gender is not about bullying. They are using our children to promote their gender-free society of madness. And so that's really what she posted. One person took offense to this. It was reported back to the school. She was then interviewed. She was then disciplined. She was summarily dismissed. And that was the end of her job at the school. And ever since then, she's never worked in a school again.
Right, OK, so hopefully after today's ruling that changes. But to me there seems a huge amount of hypocrisy here because, I mean this with absolute respect, I just played some clips at the start of the show there about some things that certain members of the radical Islamic community have been saying in mosques. And, well, that includes things like stoning people to death, potentially, for their sexuality. And Christy's a long way off that, isn't she? Do you think there's a little bit of two-tiered justice here in the sense of, we don't seem to be clamping down on what's maybe said in some other religious areas, do we?
I think that's what she felt at the time. And so why is it that she wasn't given any kind of warning? She wasn't given any kind of final disciplinary hearing. It went straight to summary dismissal. And for somebody who there was no complaints about before this point in time, she'd never been in trouble before, she had a glowing record with the school. And in fact, there was no evidence at all that she had or had shown any form of discrimination towards anybody, let alone LGBT people. That's what she said. She loved those people. She respected them. But there were certain aspects of this ideology that she felt was being pushed in schools, and she was uncomfortable with it. She was a mother of 2 young kids at the time. They're now nearly grown up, but at the time she was concerned about it as a teacher and as a mother, and she wanted to say something about it to her friends, and as a result of that, she lost her job.
But even though she's now victorious, and that's great, this is the message it sends out to people, that are you willing to pay the price for 7 years of your life, of a living hell, really, in order to speak your mind when it comes to things like gender ideology being pushed, what my view is it is being pushed in many cases, onto children in schools. And for a lot of people, they decide it's not worth it. So they keep quiet. And that's fair enough. Everyone's got their own lives to live, but they keep quiet. And so this stuff just happens and it washes over us, doesn't it? And do you feel as though there was a kind of attempt really here to almost bully her into submission?
Yeah, I mean, what she actually said in the first post was a little bit prophetic. She said, which means that freedom of belief will be destroyed, with freedom of speech permitted only for those who toe the party line. She also said that expressing and teaching fundamental Christian beliefs related to the creation of men and women in marriage will be in practice forbidden. And in fact, she was right. And the vast majority of people in this situation will probably say, okay, it's just not worth the candle. I'm going to give up my belief, or maybe I will just keep quiet and I'll say sorry for offending people. But she was an extremely brave woman who'd never, ever been in trouble in her life, even for a parking ticket. But she decided to take it all the way. And indeed, it may even go to the Supreme Court yet. We'll have to see.
Oh, gosh, really? Do you think what, they're going to try and appeal this?
Well, we won convincingly. 3 judges all agreed that what happened to her was discrimination, and not just for her, but anybody who was a believer from now on will have the freedom to say similar things to what she's had to say.
Oh, and that's the precedent. That's a good point. So this is the precedent now, is it? That if you happen to identify as a Christian parent and you have concerns about gender ideology being taught in your schools because of this case and because of what Christy has done and gone and fought this, and yourself, obviously, as a legal representative, have gone and won this case, that sets the precedent now that we can all say, frankly, what we want to say, which is that I don't like the idea of this stuff maybe being pushed on our kids.
Yeah. So what it does is it shifts the burden of proof from the employee to the employer. And so they're going to be the ones who are going to have to show, well, in fact, just because somebody's slightly offended because a third party, or maybe even a hypothetical third party, may be offended as a result of what somebody said, the burden's going to be on them to show that what they did was the right thing in disciplining and sacking somebody.
Yeah, cool. Well, good for you and good for her. So thank you very, very much. That's Michael Phillips there is the lawyer for Christy Higgs. A landmark case, absolutely. And all this talk about offence. I mean, good grief. To be honest with you, I mean, I'd be offended if my kid came home and said that the teacher had just told them they might have been born into the wrong body. I mean, that'd offend me. Will that offend you? Well, can we take them to court? Maybe we can now, actually. Coming up, though, I'll expose the judge who has just opened the floodgates for anyone from a conflict zone to come to the UK. Now, I am asking this question. Are some immigration judges just open border fanatics in a wig and gown? That's at 10 p.m. But first...
I really don't want to do it.
No, come on, you'll be absolutely fine.
Okay.
You'll be fine.
Oh my God.
You'll be fine. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
Keep your feet down.
Oh, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. A metaphor there, isn't it, for things going downhill fast for Meghan Markle. But anyway, she's left Prince Harry on his Todd at the Invictus Games, jetted back to California. There are accusations that she might have just been using those games as a bit of a PR stunt. Let's have a chat about that next.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Lisa, you got in touch with me and you flagged this survey because you were concerned as a parent that your child had been given this to fill out.
Yeah, I mean, my daughter came home from school, she was very confused. She was asking why somebody would want to hurt themselves if they were feeling sad or worried about something. So that led to a conversation that we had, and I actually phoned the school and asked them to send me the survey, which with a lot of pushing, they eventually did send me the survey. And when I read through it, I was just completely shocked at the content. The survey says when I'm feeling worried that maybe I should try cutting or harming myself, because it's in the survey, so that must be an option. I've tried everything else, so why not try this?
It is astonishing that some of these are young children who are perhaps being introduced to these, these abuses for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, there's a list of 17 different types of drugs, some of which I've actually never heard of myself. I mean, the wording on here is Have you ever got high from taking drugs? I mean...
And we know that some of these behaviours, self-harm, gender dysphoria, taking drugs, are psychologically contagious. Children do them because they see other children do them, or they find out about them from the internet or from surveys like this. So the idea that this is just information gathering and won't go any further than that is ridiculous. There was a similar survey in Scotland, I think, about 3 years ago, where children the same age, 11, 12, 13, were asked about their sex lives. How many times have you had sex in the last year? How did you have sex? Did you use contraception? Totally normalising underage sex. So the idea that children are just mini adults and we can confront them with all the same kind of ideas and dilemmas that adults have to face is just ridiculous.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Look, coming up, very important topic this. I'm going to expose the judge who's just flung Britain's borders open to thousands, potentially millions actually, of Palestinians and pose the question, are these people just activists in disguise? But first, the Invictus Games might not be over, but it seems that the Duchess of Sussex has already had enough. She's returned home to California to care for the children, according to the couple's spokesperson. Harry and Meghan have spent the past few days attending events with the athletes and touring the venue. Meghan has taken a plastering with pictures everywhere and videos all over her new Instagram account, including this video of her trying tubing down a mountain.
I really don't want to do it.
Come on, you'll be absolutely fine.
Okay.
You'll be fine.
Oh my
You'll be
God.
fine. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
Go.
Keep your feet up. Feet up.
Yeah, so I'm joined now by royal broadcaster Sarah Louise Robertson. Sarah, thank you very much. So Meghan basically stands accused of turning up to this event to take a load of pictures and videos for Instagram and then leaving. Because, yeah, what do you make of it?
She is just the worst PR crisis gift that keeps on giving, Patrick. I can't stop laughing watching that video. It's just those screams echoing down the mountainside as you hear her fade away into the distance. Harry probably wondering that's her gone forever. It's like something out of a sitcom. I was expecting to hear the Curb Your Enthusiasm theme tune soundtrack playing out afterwards just to finish it off. Yeah, she's gone off. I mean, she's used this last 5 days really as her runway for flashing designer clothes that she's wearing, clinging on to Harry. I mean, we've hardly heard anything about the athletes, have we? I don't even know who any of them are, really, sadly, that are taking part. It's really just been the Meghan show. And she has gone home. I think it was starting to really affect the look of the games because, as you say, she has taken a plastering. She's all over everywhere, but she's putting herself forward and centre yet again, Patrick. This is what she does. She just can't help herself. She's in every shot and she's taking pictures herself. She was with her phone, videoing it all, but then she's got someone behind her videoing her on top, which is for her new TV show, her new Netflix TV show. So Meghan was just using this as an opportunity to present herself, and it was distracting away from the games. And I think Harry actually at points looked quite unhappy. I mean, he can't have not noticed or heard what Donald Trump said when he said those famous words last week about Meghan, denouncing her. And exactly. So, you know, it probably does maybe ring home to him, but she's been clinging on to him, these over-the-top public displays of affection, like kissing his face all the time. And at times, Harry just looked like he just wanted to be like left alone for 5 minutes. Interestingly, he's got that now. He's having a day off. Now, you would think if they're so loved up, they would want to have that day off together. No, as you say, she's gone back to California to see the children, fair enough. But he's having a day off to himself where apparently he's going to be going skiing and enjoying the facilities at his 5-star hotel and what have you, and before the closing ceremony this weekend. There's also been a bit of a rewriting of history, Patrick, which is quite interesting because the Sussex's aides came out and said she was always meant to go home. She was only ever meant to stay for these 5 days, and that she's never stayed the duration of the Invictus Games. Now, that is wrong, because when she was in Dusseldorf, she joined a few days later, but she was there for the closing ceremony. She was there practically the whole time. So again, there's just this little bit of rewriting of history. I think that he's maybe not liked how this is played out in the press. He's not liked the aesthetics of it. He's maybe thought this is taken away from the game.
Well, she's also potentially been quite tactical about it as well, because I believe that she only launched this Instagram account like a few days ago, a couple of weeks ago, and then she started plastering it everywhere. What I will say, though, about the Invictus Games in general, though, is I think this is, for Harry gets a lot of stick. I mean, this is, I think, the shining light in his actual life. But he has copped it recently, though, but with some royal staff. They quoted a new book saying that he's akin to the Prince Regent in Blackadder, who was, of course, so thick that it took him a week to put his trousers on. And when he did get them on, he put them on his own head. So, I mean, do you think the royal staff now feel very, very comfortable talking out about Harry and Meghan, don't they?
Yes, I think now, since Harry's wrote that book, Spare, all bets are off, Patrick. Why should they stay silent, really, anymore? He hasn't stayed silent about them. Let's face it, they've dragged the royal staff through the mud, haven't they? Accusing them of racism and singling them out and one thing after another. So really, the royal staff have got nothing left to lose, and I think that they're just going to say what they think, and they probably have had to cover up over the years for maybe Harry's mistakes or gas. I mean, I wasn't his teacher at school. Who am I to judge on his academia or academic record or his intelligence? But the way he's conducted himself in recent years hasn't portrayed himself in the best light. So you sort of wonder maybe about emotional intelligence there, or maybe he just lacks being able to read a room.
Well, there's also potentially
in the right place.
Yeah.
Say Harry's heart's in the right place. It is.
No, absolutely. And again, I will say, I think the Invictus Games that he does is a real credit to him, and it's a fantastic thing. I do think, questioning maybe his potential intellect is, some people might say that's unfair. Other people might say, well, that might point towards why he could potentially be so easily led by someone like Meghan Markle. Had his eyes open, he's managed to activate a higher echelon of understanding that us mere mortals would not be able to get, like critical race theory, for example. But, Sarah, thank you very much. It's always an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. You take care. Royal Broadcast Sarah Louise Robertson coming up at 10. It's a big one, this. I'm going to expose the judge who's just opened the floodgates for anyone from a conflict zone to come into the UK. Look, we have to ask ourselves a serious question. We always get told, don't we? Well, look, we're very different to the US. We don't have a politicised judiciary. I think judges should be made to reveal who they vote for and what their political ideologies are. Stay tuned.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Evening. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. We'll keep a lot of cloud tomorrow, and if anything, for many of us, feeling a little bit colder, but we should see maybe a few more sunny spells, particularly in parts of the west. We've still got easterly winds with high pressure out east, low pressure out west, and the UK kind of in this no man's land in between. The cloud thick enough for a little bit of drizzle here and there over parts of central and eastern England through the night, but most places staying dry. Clear skies across western Scotland will allow a frost here, and also some frost is likely over northwest England, maybe West Wales, where we do have also some breaks in the cloud. Temperatures elsewhere where it's cloudy, mostly holding up at 2 or 3 Celsius. Still quite breezy on some of these North Sea coasts, but the winds generally a little lighter than they have been through the day today. And as I mentioned, I'm a bit more optimistic for some brighter skies tomorrow. Again, parts of southwest England, West Wales, but even further east, it may brighten up at times. Quite cloudy again for northeast England, eastern Scotland, maybe a few breaks in the cloud for Northern Ireland. Certainly some good breaks in the cloud across western Scotland, so some sunny spells here again, but it does of course mean overnight we'll see that frost forming. So a chilly start as we go through the day. Not a great deal of change, probably not as many light showers as today, but still the odd one here and there over the Midlands, eastern England. The winds will pick up in the southwest as we go through the day, as we'll start to see cloud thickening here. But generally, further east, the wind's a little lighter than today. But if anything, it's going to be colder. Temperatures only 4 or 5 degrees Celsius. We'll have a frost again, where we've got clear skies through Thursday night into Friday morning. Thicker cloud further west. Some drizzly rain at times for West Wales, Devon, Cornwall and Northern Ireland. Many eastern and central parts dry. But again, a better chance of some breaks in the clouds. Still on the chilly side, however, slowly turning a little milder as we head through into the weekend. Bye for now.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We're doubling your chances to win in our latest Great British giveaway, with 2 fabulous prize bundles up for grabs. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. And the best news is 2 lucky winners are going to win. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. 1 entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Headliners on GB News, 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight. Britain's borders have been flung open to the people of Gaza, but who is the judge? Well, Hugo Benedict Norton-Taylor, the son of an ex-Guardian journalist who was posting stuff like this on his social media.
I want to tell whoever is willing to listen that what's happening now in Gaza is a genocide.
So are activist judges ruining this country? And by the way, before we go to our next clip, I've come into possession here of a remarkable story, which I'm going to be bringing to you shortly. A failed asylum seeker can now stay in the UK because she joined a terror group. Yeah, so we've got another case. Again, anyway, also...
You and your brother here, I'm a good guy. Habibi, God, pack that up because it's not going to work on the day of judgment.
Well, there's also the big update of the case of radical Islamic preachers who are now coming to Britain, with Shadow Justice Minister Robert Jenrick, who's joining us shortly, and...
Quote, as a consequence of the Israeli government's indiscriminate attempts to eliminate Hamas.
They put the complete opposite argument. She talks about on top of her brief. She has no idea what she's talking about.
Did Kemi Badenoch have a bit of a shocker today, and is she up to the job? Plus...
You'll be absolutely fine. Okay. You'll be fine. Oh You'll be fine. 3, 2, 1, go. Keep your feet down. Feet up.
Meghan Markle recorded a load of clips for her own social media and then left the Invictus Games early. Was she just there for self-promotion? On my panel tonight, Director of Popular Conservatives Mark Littlewood, landlord and activist Adam Brooks, and broadcaster Nina Mishkov. Also tonight...
Morning, the president spoke to President Putin of Russia. I can also confirm that the president just recently got off the phone with President Zelensky.
Well, big news. President Trump might be on the brink of ending the war in Ukraine. Oh, and talking of that, this is Elon Musk's son.
If a company or an organization is on a do not pay list, we should not pay it.
We've got other clips of his antics as well, but does he remind you of anyone?
Of F Company's Scots Guards.
Oh, and?
This process would deny that. It's essentially, it would deny, well, frankly, Paddington.
Yeah, a Labour MP is making claims about Paddington Bear in relation to immigration. Get ready, Britain, here we go. Are Britain's immigration judges just open border fanatics in a wig? Next.
Patrick, thank you very much. The top stories this hour. US President Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin have agreed to start negotiations on ending the war in Ukraine in a telephone call today. Mr. Trump has said this evening that he expects to meet Putin in Saudi Arabia. Mr. Trump said in a post on his social media platform, "We've agreed to start negotiations immediately." Putin last spoke to a sitting US president in February of 2022 when he had a call with Joe Biden shortly before ordering thousands of troops into Ukraine. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has also spoken to the US president today. They reportedly discussed opportunities to achieve peace and the preparation of a document governing security and economic cooperation.
To the president, to his message that he will support Ukraine and he really wants to stop this war. And I know that he's a strong man, and I'm sure that he will push Putin.
A review into the handling of the man who murdered Sir David Amess under the counter-terror programme Prevent has found his assessments were problematic. Ali Harbi Ali, who was given a whole life sentence in 2022, had been referred to Prevent 7 years before he killed the veteran MP in October 2021, but his case was closed in 2016. The review found the handling of his Prevent case was suboptimal and was closed too quickly. The government promised to publish the Prevent Learning Review after the report into Southport killer Axel Rudakabana's handling by the programme was published last week. And Sir Keir Starmer and the leader of the opposition clashed over immigration at PMQs this morning. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch repeatedly asking the Prime Minister why a Gazan family of 6 was allowed to come into the UK under a scheme intended for Ukrainians and if that loophole would be closed.
There are millions of people all around the world in terrible situations. We cannot help them all, and we certainly cannot bring them all here. Will he commit to bringing forward that new legislation or amending his borders bill?
Prime Minister. Well, Mr. Speaker, I've already said the Home Secretary has already got a team working on closing this loophole. We don't need to wait for that. We're getting on with that because we're taking control. They lost control of immigration. We had nearly 1 million people come into this country, had an open borders experiment. On a Monday of this week, they voted against increased powers to deal with those that are running the vile trade of people smuggling. Same old Tories, open borders, empty promises.
And those are the latest headlines for now. More from me in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Judges in Britain should be made to reveal who they vote for and what their political views are. A judge called Hugo Benedict Norton-Taylor has just opened the floodgates of Britain to hordes of people from Gaza. People that neighbouring countries don't want to take. This unelected man decided that a refugee scheme designed specifically for Ukrainians that actually closed last year can now be used by people in Gaza. But who is Hugo Benedict Norton-Taylor? Well, his father is a Guardian journalist, or at least was anyway, who campaigns against Israel and tougher immigration laws. His father, Richard Norton-Taylor, reposted this on social media.
My name is Amos Goldberg. I'm an Israeli professor of Holocaust studies. For nearly 30 years, I have researched and taught the Holocaust, genocide, and state violence. And I want to tell whoever is willing to listen that what's happening now in Gaza is a genocide.
Richard Norton-Taylor also signed a petition for Haringey Council to stop supporting genocide in Palestine. He also signed a petition opposing the illegal migration bill. And in a video for BBC Two's Daily Politics show in January 2016, he had argued that Britain should return the Falkland Islands and Gibraltar. I'll say return, of course, but anyway, there we go. If Hugo Benedict Norton-Taylor has anything like the same politics as his father, then in my view, he is in no position to be passing judgments on whether Palestinians should come to Britain. Let's have a little look, shall we, at Hugo Benedict Norton-Taylor's back catalogue of cases. He decided that an Afghan rapist who preyed on sleeping women should not be deported because the Taliban might take a dim view of him. He decided that a refugee who murdered his wife and lied about being bisexual should not be deported to Bangladesh because of Article 3 of the ECHR, i.e. he might have suffered inhuman punishment back home. Obviously, what about his wife is the obvious question there. Time and time again, he is interpreting the law in a way that allows refugees, asylum seekers, illegal immigrants and criminals to stay in Britain. What is the logical explanation for that? Is he an open borders fanatic in a wig and a gown? He may well deny that. Well, we asked the court if he had a hidden political agenda, and they said they couldn't comment on individual cases, which is quite interesting, isn't it? Because wouldn't you just say no? Wouldn't you just say no? Wouldn't he have told them to say no? Anyway, time and time again, we see decisions from members of our judiciary that beggar belief. A Pakistani paedophile who abused prepubescent girls was allowed to stay in Britain because it might harm his children if he left. An Albanian criminal can't be deported because a judge took pity on the claim that his son doesn't like foreign chicken nuggets. A judge delayed the deportation of a Caribbean woman because her Latvian husband doesn't like Caribbean weather or local cuisine. And can I just say, in the last few minutes, I went outside earlier and my producers handed me a story that's in the Telegraph. And I'm going to read the headline to you. Failed asylum seeker can stay in UK because she joined a terror group. Now, the story here is that she's from Nigeria and she came to Britain and she joined a terror group that is obviously at war with whoever's in charge in Nigeria, and that meant that we couldn't send her back to Nigeria because they might kill her or put her in prison. They couldn't find any evidence of her taking part in any of this banned terror group's meetings or having anything to do with them. But an upper tribunal judge, Gemma Loughran, has ruled that she should be allowed to stay in Britain. In fact, she overruled a previous meeting. What's going on here? Who are these people? Seriously, you'd be forgiven for thinking that they are biased in favour of these migrants, wouldn't you? But let's get back to Hugo Benedict Norton-Taylor, shall we? Who runs Britain? Is it the people? Is it you and me? We have voted en masse, time and time again, to reduce legal immigration, illegal immigration and deport more foreigners. Is it the government who's in charge? To give Keir Starmer his credit here, he opposed this judge's decision. The Labour government was democratically elected with a huge landslide. Should they not be in charge here? No. One man, Hugo Benedict Norton-Taylor, who nobody ever voted for, he is the one with the power to say that Britain should take in Palestinians. But not just Palestinians, no, because this verdict could, in theory, be applied to anyone in any conflict zone anywhere in the world. There are currently 45 armed conflicts in the Middle East and North Africa, 35 in mainland Africa, 21 in Asia and several in continental Europe. Do immigration tribunal judges like Hugo Benedict Norton-Taylor think that they should all be allowed to come to Britain? Now, people say, hey, look, well, we can appeal this in the Supreme Court, can't we? OK, great. Well, how do we know the Supreme Court isn't stacked full of Hugo Benedict Norton-Taylors? And then, of course, we could go to the ECHR. Well, it's pointless, isn't it? Because we know how they'd rule, don't we? And we know that Keir Starmer's great mate, the Attorney-General, Lord Hermer, has just gone on record saying this.
Now, I'm proud to say that since taking office, this new United Kingdom government has taken steps to uphold our obligations and the international rules-based system. The new United Kingdom government will never withdraw from the European Convention on Human Rights or refuse to comply with judgments of the court.
I could weep for the future of Great Britain. With verdicts like this one, there is no future. Britain will be turned into a plot of land that third world immigrants flock to, some of them with backward ideologies and medieval attitudes towards women and girls, and others just hoping for a life on benefits. If Gaza comes to Britain, I think we can wave goodbye to much of the Jewish community, can't we? They'll be off. Is that what we want, is it? I mean, there is a case study about a country that let a load of Palestinians in. That country's Denmark. Shall we see what happened? Oh, OK, then. Of the 321 Palestinians they took in 1992, 64% of them are criminals, 34% of their children are now criminals, and a load of them are on welfare. In June, a survey found that 40% of Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank actually supported Hamas. I mean, there is a reason why Gaza's border with Egypt looks like this, isn't there? There we go. Have a bit of that. All right. They don't want them, do they? But Hugo Benedict Norton-Taylor has decided that we should suffer them. People say we're not like the United States. We don't have a politicised judiciary. I fundamentally disagree with that. And I think the evidence of the decisions made in immigration cases supports me. We are told judges are beyond contempt. They are beyond reproach. I disagree. It looks a lot like some of them are activists, and they need to be exposed. Before I go to my panel, I'm joined by immigration solicitor Ivan Sampson. Ivan, thank you very, very much. So should judges be made to reveal who they vote for and what their political views are?
No, they shouldn't. It's totally irrelevant, to be honest. Judges are there to uphold the law and apply the law without fear or favour. The separation of power between the judiciary and the executive is fundamental in a healthy democracy. It prevents the abuse of power. It protects... Look, Patrick, you have a right to be with your family. I've got a right to be with my family. I expect the judges to uphold that right and apply the law evenly.
But Ivan, he's taken an interpretation of the law that nobody... The British public disagree with this. The British public fundamentally vote against this. The government of the day disagree with it. The opposition all disagree with it. Right, and you've got Hugo Benedict Norton-Taylor, who, it appears, comes from a family that is, I would say, hardline left-wing and believe that a genocide is going on in Israel, and he alone has the power to dictate our immigration policy. I think that's fundamentally wrong. I mean, don't you?
No, I don't. And I've sat through many immigration cases in Article 8. Article 8 cases, Patrick, are fact-sensitive. Okay?
Well, not in this case, is it? It's based on a Ukrainian. It's based on a Ukrainian scheme that closed a year ago. How is that fact-centred when we're talking about people from Gaza, Ivan?
Well, if you stop interrupting me, I'll explain to you how it's fact-sensitive. Article 8 depends on relationships. Now, relationships between family, adult members must be more than emotional ties. You said that it opens the floodgates. It doesn't. Not at all. It doesn't open the floodgates because what this family has done is persuaded the judge that their relationship with their family members goes beyond emotional ties, and the threshold is very high. If you think we're suddenly going to get millions of people come to the UK...
Well, you say that, Ivan, but it's the same judge who was very easily persuaded that someone couldn't be sent back. An Afghan rapist couldn't be sent back because of the Taliban. He appeared to be very easily persuaded about a Bangladeshi wife murderer not being able to go back there. I mean, goodness gracious me, I hope if I ever get in trouble, all I have to do is to persuade this guy, because it just sounds like it's the easiest thing in the world.
Well, look, you said Keir Starmer's in control. Keir Starmer said we'll uphold the law. Yeah, that's what he said. We'll uphold the law. He said we're not coming out of the convention. Well, the convention has a thing called Article 8, the protection of your rights and my rights.
It's not protection of my rights, Ivan. I don't really need it, Ivan. No, this is the thing, mate. I don't need it, and you don't need it, because we don't go around breaking into other countries and committing heinous crimes and then needing to rely on it in a court of law and hoping Hugo Benedict Norton-Taylor turns up and gets us out of jail. We don't really need it, mate. All right? We're all right. It's these people who do, and it seems to always come down in their favour. But look, Ivan, I am very worked up about this because, by the way, I think Britain is gone. Britain is gone, and people like Hugo Benedict Norton-Taylor need to take account for some of the decisions that they are making. But, Ivan, thank you very much. Ivan Samson, immigration solicitor. Let's get the views of my panel this evening. We have got... there we go. We have, of course, got the Director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood. We've also got landlord activist Adam Brooks and Nina Mishkov as well, broadcaster and journalist. Look, if I sound angry about this, I am very angry about it. I just think this case is ridiculous. I mean, what do you make of this, Mark? I mean, who is this guy, you know?
Yeah, it's quite... I mean, a real name to conjure with, isn't it? Hugo Benedict Norton-Taylor. Yeah. Look, it's ludicrous. The lawyer you were just talking to there highlights Article 8 of the European Convention of the Human Rights Act. And that article says, in broad terms, you have a right for your privacy and your family life to be respected. Here's the problem. That is open to such wide interpretation that any judge could sort of say, oh, well, you know, your family life includes whether your kid likes chicken nuggets or not, or, you know, such like. So really what the politicians have got to do is either to repeal that article, to get out of ECHR, repeal that article, or at the very least to stipulate what is meant by a family life that will be protected and what is on the wrong side of the line, to make sure that Norton-Taylor and judges like this have far less discretion, that are actually penned in to pretty clear guidance from Parliament. And in this other case you were mentioning about this Nigerian woman, I mean, it's unbelievable. So in order not to be sent home now, you can join insincerely some kind of weird extremist group which would put you at risk if you were sent home. So you pretend to... and even the judge accepted that her membership of this group was not sincere. I mean, it seems to me, if you are deliberately, artificially placing yourself in danger of being prosecuted by the authorities with no sincerity whatsoever, that's on you.
Should judges now, or tribunal judges, whatever it is, be made to reveal who they vote for, what their ideology is, and even if that involves some kind of lie detector test?
Yeah, look, I'm not an expert in law, but what he said there is, oh, law has to be followed. But in sentencing guidelines, there's been many cases recently. What about the case where the guy threatened the Jewish supermarket in London with a huge knife, waved it about, escaped jail? That judge could have put him in prison for a long time. Didn't. We are seeing cases like Hugh Edwards, paedophiles caught with images of babies not going to court because the judge...
Or not going to prison,
Not going to prison because the judge doesn't sentence them that. They can do, OK? So a lot of the time it is these judges' decisions. These judges do not live in parts of London or this country where asylum seekers and illegal immigrants will cause them a problem. They are champagne socialists. And as you said, a lot of the time, I believe they are activists.
Well, Nina, is it fair to say that some of these judges are activists? I mean, to me, the reason why I'm getting so worked up about it now is because of the relentless cases. And I mean, the one fell in our lap was when I went outside for a glass of water before. But yeah, the most logical explanation for me with this is that they are. Because they don't have to interpret the law this way, Nina, do they?
The thing is, we don't know the nuances of the case. And let's face it, Keir Starmer made very clear at Prime Minister's questions today that this was an aberration. They thought it was wrong. The Home Office are fighting it, and they're finding every way to close whatever loophole there is. Everybody who was in a position of authority is agreed that this shouldn't... So the gates are not open to Gazans. They will not be open to Gaza. They will not be open to every person fleeing conflict in every portion of the globe. So that is going to be stamped upon. That will not take place. So, you know, we are kind of scaremongering. The Telegraph is keen on scaremongering. And get the facts right. Look, you know, that you've got to look at it dispassionately. The law is there to be...
I don't feel it dispassionately, Nina, and the reason I don't feel it dispassionately, Nina, is because when I go outside and I open my eyes and I see this country changing and I see it getting less safe, and I talk to friends who are Jewish and they tell me about the abject fear that they feel going out and about, and I see ruling after ruling after ruling of things like this, and I think we are committing national suicide. And I feel that very deeply.
There are thousands of rulings every week. And these are a handful of cases. They may be aberrations, and this guy may be interpreting the law in the way he sees it. But you can't accuse him of being an activist just because his father was a Guardian journalist, for heaven's sake. Very often, children rebel against their father. It doesn't go down the line. It does not go down. So you can't just say he's a lefty champagne socialist. I know his name doesn't help him at all, obviously.
Well, I would argue that the judgments.
No.
I take your point there, but yeah.
But there are positions in law that we don't know about that these cases may have come. We're given the broad brushstrokes.
Right. Patrick, I feel like we're living in a country now where the criminal and illegal immigrants are put before the people of this country.
That's not true. That's not true.
It is.
Well, let's pop a pin in this for now because, when I come back, I've got Robert Jemrick on, the Shadow Justice Minister, who's been waiting patiently outside, actually, so we better get to him soon. But before all of that, of course, it's the Great British Giveaway, isn't it? Here's how you can win 2 epic bundles.
We're doubling your chances to win in our latest Great British Giveaway, with 2 fabulous prize bundles up for grabs. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. And the best news is 2 lucky winners are going to win. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. 1 entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
All right, OK, when I come back, I've got some newspaper front pages for you. But first, the Shadow Justice Minister, Robert Jemrick, is live with me in the studio. We're going to carry on this discussion about a biased judiciary. We're also going to be talking about this latest bonkers case. A failed asylum seeker can stay in the UK because she pretended to be a member of a Nigerian terrorist organisation. Stay tuned.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight, every night from 11 p.m.
We've got the Daily Mail now with the latest in the court case over whether a man is a woman or a man. It's a tough question, and J.K. Rowling has given her opinion. I think I can guess what it is, Cressida.
Explosive twist in Australia's What is a Woman trans battle as Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling gets involved. So this is the court case Giggle versus Tickle. Tickle was a...
He's Mr. Men.
That's right. It's a Mr. Men trans battle.
Kind of is a Mr. Man.
It was a women's group, wasn't it? Tickle, Giggles... Oh, I get it wrong. Giggles for girls. And Roxy Tickle, who is a trans woman, wanted to join this group and wasn't allowed, was banned for being a biological male, and then sued and amazingly got $10,000 for this, which is already extraordinary to me.
Yeah.
But it's now doubling down and is going to file a cross appeal seeking to upgrade the judgment.
Yeah.
So Roxy has come back for another bite of the cherry.
And I've had a look at this Roxanne Tickle, the trans woman.
Is she pretty?
No, not one of the pretty ones. Not a Blair White. Just looks like, to be honest, it looks like
you could be sued for $10,000.
Looks like one of us.
Yeah.
To be honest, no. Like I mean, I'll happily.
For yourself.
No, I think it's an absolute. It's a farce, and it's making a mockery of not just it's not just making a mockery of, women's right to have their own spaces. It's making a mockery of genuine trans people who actually put some effort in and look like a woman.
What do you mean a genuine trans
And also,
people?
if
We don't believe in that.
No, if your name was Roxanne, if you were going to transition, you wouldn't pick the name Roxanne Tickle.
What?
You choose Tess.
Tess. That's a kind of name. No, the truth is, that's one of the problems, is you get a choice in the name you're going to choose. And of course, you're going to choose like a hot Roxanne. That's a hot Roxanne. That's a great name. They're not going to choose.
You don't think
Louis.
Tess would work better with Tickle?
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Yeah, welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. Now, look, as you've been hearing, the Home Office have been warned that a decision to allow Palestinian migrants to live in the UK through a scheme meant for Ukrainians could, quote, open the floodgates to anyone from a conflict zone to come to Britain. A family of 6 seeking to flee Gaza has been allowed to join their brother in the UK after an immigration judge ruled that the Home Office rejection of their application breached their human rights. There's a lot to go at here. Very pleased to be joined now by the Shadow Justice Secretary, Robert Chemney. Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Great to have you on the show. A couple of things first here. I mean, this is a ridiculous case, in my view. Is it time to look at the judiciary, do you think, at all? Should we be having a look at who these people are, the way they might vote or whatever? What do you think?
Well, I do think this is an outrageous example of judicial overreach, one of the worst I've ever come across. It essentially means that anyone from any conflict zone, anywhere in the world, could come to the UK to be with any family member. And it restricts the ability of the government and Parliament to set our own immigration policy. And your viewers, I think, will consider this to be, almost a sick joke. The idea that we could create a scheme for Ukrainians and it be used by Gazans. And that there is a judge who twisted and contorted our human rights laws to make this happen. And I think judges have to be held to account when they make decisions that are so inexplicable, so absurd as this one, that people's blood will be boiling listening to this. And so I do think this judge has to be held to account. I think that's why we have to appeal this. I want the Home Office to take this all the way, take it to the Supreme Court, frankly. And if that doesn't work, we've got to change the law. But unlike what Keir Starmer said at Prime Minister's Questions today, that is not an easy thing when you've got a Prime Minister and an Attorney General who say that international law takes precedent over everything, even basic common sense and our national interest.
That's an interesting point, and it does come back yet again to Lord Hermer, doesn't it, who is our Attorney General, at least for now, anyway, Starmer's great mate. So you are concerned that if this did go all the way through to Strasbourg and they decide against it, well, we have an Attorney General who's on record, isn't he, saying that he would just accept that decision?
Yeah, well, Keir Starmer and Lord Hermer are, kind of two peas in a pod, both people who always put the interests of the kind of gilded international law circuit above those of our own people here in the UK. And they have said very clearly that they will always abide by those judgments. And so here you've got a case where the judge has said that because of Article 8 in the European Convention on Human Rights, he's going to grant this family the right to come to the UK, despite the fact they're not Ukrainians. There's no particular reason why they should be coming here whatsoever. So it's hard to see how you can square this circle. What's got to happen is either we win on appeal in the court or we change the law and say this cannot happen, even if that is in contravention of the European Convention on Human Rights. That is the commonsensical way to resolve this. But I don't see how Keir Starmer is able to do that, given everything that he said, everything that he believes about international law.
Well, we played a clip earlier on of Lord Hermer literally standing up and saying we will never go against a ruling. I wonder if this might be the test case for the ECHR, as far as Brits are concerned, because if it is a case of opening the floodgates to people in Gaza and the rest of the world, we're faced with a straight choice on that, or leaving the ECHR. I think I know which way people might go. But there's one here, a failed asylum seeker. I know this just landed earlier, but failed asylum seeker can stay in the UK because she joined a terror group. It's a Nigerian woman who tried and failed 8 times to secure asylum in Britain, was finally granted the right to stay after joining a terrorist organisation. Now, she's been quite clever about this, in a sense, because the terrorist organisation is not a prescribed group here in Britain, but would be enough to basically get you locked up and potentially tortured in Nigeria. Again, I would question, well, where she got that idea from. But in this case, the upper tribunal judge acknowledged that she thought this was a lie, but she still sided in her favour. So you can lie to judges in this country now. They know you're lying, and they still let you stay. I mean, something's gone really wrong there, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think this is a sick joke. The idea that you can join a terror group and get to live in the UK. No. Absolutely not. I don't want people like this anywhere near the United Kingdom. Someone like that, frankly, should be being deported tomorrow. And it is outrageous that tribunal judges, judges in our immigration system, are allowing people to lie. They know that they're telling lies, and they still give them the benefit of the doubt. If you come to our country illegally, I mean, frankly, you should be deported anyway, but if you're coming into our country and then you lie blatantly, that should be the end of the matter. You lie, you're out.
I mean, do you think that there is a case to say we do have a politicised judiciary? I mean, it's an uncomfortable thing to say, because we're all raised on the idea that they are, beyond contempt and all of this stuff. But do you think there's a case to be had that maybe we do?
Well, I think we are seeing cases now, day after day, frankly, of judicial activism, where judges are taking decisions which defy common sense, are completely outrageous, and are taking our existing laws to a whole new level, which Parliament and the government never envisaged. And that has to stop, because it is unsustainable. It is putting the judiciary and Parliament and the government into conflict in a way which cannot continue. And I think these judges have to be held to account when they make such outrageous decisions as the one you saw recently with this Gaza one.
I mean, people who presumably support this decision will say, look at what's going on at the moment in Gaza, and, well, why shouldn't we? Why shouldn't we allow rulings like this, which could, just in a slightly more narrow sense, mean that anyone who's got a relative or claims to have a relative in Britain who is in Gaza could move to the UK. I mean, why shouldn't we be in favour of that, do you think?
Well, firstly, I don't think it's a good idea that people from Gaza come here to the UK. If you look at the neighbours of Gaza, Egypt, Jordan, there's no way that they would allow anyone, at any scale to come from Gaza to live in their own countries because of the link of many people to Hamas and terrorist organisations. But even setting that to one side, it is for the government and Parliament to decide whether we have schemes like this. It is not for judges to dream up schemes themselves, because if you allow that to continue, you're basically saying that the government doesn't set the immigration policy of the United Kingdom. It is a free-for-all set by judges who are able to make arbitrary decisions, and that is the opposite of the rule of law, the constitutional tradition we have as a country.
Yeah, look, just lastly, because you were sitting in PMQs today. I could see you there, next to Kemi Badenoch. She was accused, really, of missing the mark a little bit, not being able to deviate from a script, and maybe, being battered around a little bit by Keir Starmer. I mean, how do you think she's doing? I mean, there's talk, obviously, behind the scenes that maybe a couple of people aren't necessarily best pleased with her. Supposedly put a time limit of May 2026 on her tenure. I mean, you were sat right there. Would you have approached things differently, do you think?
Well, I thought she cut to the nub of the issue, actually. She challenged Keir Starmer on whether there was going to be an appeal. He didn't answer that directly. She challenged him then on, if you're going to change the law, how would you do that? When you've got somebody at your side like Lord Hermer, who prizes international law above everything else, always elevates that over the interests of the British people, and that was absolutely the right approach.
All right, Robert, thank you very much. Robert Jenrick there, of course, the Shadow Justice Minister. I mean, good grief, presumably we'll be back here tomorrow talking about another one of these cases, won't we? It just seems never-ending at the moment. But coming up, very first look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages. You've got a sneak peek of what's on the front of the Telegraph, but I've got lots more coming your way. Stay tuned.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Heavy showers and thunderstorms affecting the Adriatic coastline, but elsewhere it should be mostly settled. These heavy showers could produce quite a lot of rain, particularly across southern parts of Croatia, Albania and parts of Greece. Some thunder and lightning mixed in with those too. But as we move our way further west across the Mediterranean, it's largely dominated by high pressure, so largely settled, particularly for Madeira and Tenerife, where we're likely to see the best of the sunshine. Showers continuing for a time before becoming more settled.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Evening, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. We'll keep a lot of cloud tomorrow, and if anything, for many of us feeling a little bit colder, but we should see maybe a few more sunny spells, particularly in parts of the west. We've still got easterly winds with high pressure out east, low pressure out west, and the UK kind of in this no man's land in between. The cloud thick enough for a little bit of drizzle here and there over parts of central and eastern England through the night, but most places staying dry. Clear skies across western Scotland will allow a frost here, and also some frost is likely over northwest England, maybe West Wales, where we do have also some breaks in the cloud. Temperatures elsewhere where it's cloudy, mostly holding up at 2 or 3 Celsius. Still quite breezy on some of these North Sea coasts, but the winds generally a little lighter than they have been through the day today. And as I mentioned, I'm a bit more optimistic for some brighter skies tomorrow. Again, parts of southwest England, West Wales, but even further east, it may brighten up at times. Quite cloudy again for northeast England, eastern Scotland, maybe a few breaks in the cloud for Northern Ireland. Certainly some good breaks in the cloud across western Scotland, so some sunny spells here again, but it does of course mean overnight we'll see that frost forming. So a chilly start as we go through the day. Not a great deal of change, probably not as many light showers as today, but still the odd one here and there over the Midlands, eastern England. The winds will pick up in the southwest as we go through the day, as we'll start to see cloud thickening here. But generally, further east, the wind's a little lighter than today. But if anything, it's going to be colder. Temperatures only 4 or 5 degrees Celsius. We'll have a frost again, where we've got clear skies through Thursday night into Friday morning. Thicker cloud further west. Some drizzly rain at times for West Wales, Devon, Cornwall and Northern Ireland. Many eastern and central parts dry. But again, a better chance of some breaks in the clouds. Still on the chilly side, however, slowly turning a little milder as we head through into the weekend. Bye for now.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, everybody. It's time to reveal tomorrow's newspaper front pages. OK, so let's start with Daily Telegraph. Join a terror group stay in the UK. Spoken about this a lot. It's a ridiculous case of a Nigerian woman who pretended to be part of a Nigerian terrorist organisation so that she couldn't be sent back to Nigeria. But here's the story we're going to be talking about now, which is Trump and Putin start talks to end the war in Ukraine. I'm going to give you the rest of the front pages and we'll get stuck into that. Cabinet ministers at risk as Starmer plans his first reshuffle. So apparently Lord Hermer, the Attorney General, Education Secretary Bridget Phillips and Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy, who's someone described as once as being about as cultured as a yoghurt. She's going to go. They're all going to go, apparently. We'll have to wait and see her. Daily Mail. Trump's shock call with Putin to end the war. But will peace deal betray Ukraine? That's the Mail. The Daily Express. Kemi, we need to put our national interest first. Tory leader urges Starmer to close crazy European law loophole. And here we go, the Metro. A game of no halves. Forget pints, it's a total booze ban at the Saudi World Cup. So there we go. They actually said, if you come to our country, then you should abide by our culture and our laws. which, as much as I might disagree with aspects of the Saudi culture, I think is fair enough. I probably just wish we did a bit more of that over here. But let's get stuck into to Trump and this story here, which is supposedly he's cooked up a plan with Vladimir Putin to end the war in Ukraine. OK? I think I can play you a little clip here of Trump, I think. So let's do that.
We'll see what that means. I think when the war ends, one thing he was very strong about, if it ends, he wants it to end. And that's President Putin said that. He wants it to end. He doesn't want to end it and then go back to fighting 6 months later. We talked about the possibility, I mentioned it, of a ceasefire so we can stop the killing. And I think we'll probably end up at some point getting a ceasefire in the not too distant future. President Putin wants to have peace now, and that's good. And he didn't want to have peace with Biden.
So there we go. I mean, Trump also released a post online that was basically very, very friendly towards Putin, very friendly. But ultimately, at its core, it was about ending this war. What do you make of what we're seeing and hearing here, Mark?
Cautiously optimistic. Seems to me that total victory for Ukraine is a military impossibility, right? So we could fight this war for another century, and it's sort of grinding to some sort of stalemate, right? The downside is that, in an ideal world, I would like a total Ukrainian victory. They are going to have to surrender land, which I don't believe is Russian. But I'm afraid peace means compromise, doesn't it? Trump did say he would pull this off. I think he's got a fair chance of doing so. It's what the president said there at the end that's so important. Do we trust Putin to stick to whatever peace deal is signed, or does he encroach over whatever the new border is some weeks or some months thereafter? That needs to be really, really tightly defined, and Putin would need to be completely clear of the consequences of breaking any peace deal that's signed. I'm not sure I trust him, but this is the best we can hope for, I think.
The critics online are saying things like, well, this rhetoric that Trump's putting out there about how great it was to chat with Putin, they've always had a great relationship, they're going to have supposedly reciprocal state visits, etc. They're saying, oh, look, this just shows that he's in bed with Putin. Well, then I thought, hang on a minute, do we want this war to end or not?
You know what I see online, especially on X? I see a lot of middle-class people with Ukraine flags in their bios saying, no, they cannot give up. We've got to fight for Ukraine. What they don't go and look at is the young men that are forced by their army, dragged out of their houses and off of buses, and then parachuted to the front line and then die weeks later on both sides. Innocent Russians, innocent Ukrainians. And I think it's something like 1 million people will have died soon in this conflict. That is 1 million lives, even if it's not quite that much. Think of how many humans that is, how many fathers have died, how many brothers, war is not right. And unfortunately, what Mark said is right. Ukraine cannot win this war, and we haven't got endless funds to keep funding this war and putting off the inevitable. And our bills, our energy bills, are sky high, they say, because of this conflict. So I want to see him come down.
Yeah, you're right about that. But so let's just say this happens and we get something resembling peace. Well, peace there, actually. How long do you reckon it's going to be before your bills start coming down and those prices of goods in the market starts coming down? All those things that rose and went up because of Ukraine. But Nina, what do you make of this? Because, look, it's fair to say you I don't know, despise Trump. Is that fair enough? So what's your reaction when you see this?
My reaction is hopeful. God knows whether he and Putin have already cooked up a deal before. We don't know how many phone calls there's been over how many years. We don't know that. Trump is no stranger to Moscow. He's visited Moscow in the past, and there have been all sorts of rumours about that, which I will not repeat here.
Well, there's a lot of rumours about the Bidens as well, so we can go into that if you want.
Yeah, no, I'm not competing on that. I'm just saying there's a history of that. The whole point of Ukrainians, you say Ukrainians dragged out of their beds and onto the front line. Ukraine, look, my father went to Lviv University when that was part of Poland. It was called Lviv in those days. So I have great feelings for this. The trouble is that whole area of Europe, if you look at your history, has been partitioned. Yeah. It's been Russian, it's been Polish, it's been Ukrainian, all of that. So Ukraine has been fighting on the West's behalf. Ukraine is our buffer against the encroaching Russian state. Putin's excuse was that the West was coming eastwards, and that's true. Look, Finland just joined.
We promised
we wouldn't.
Yes, exactly.
Ukraine was need to be denazified.
Yeah,
That
was his excuse. So I don't think you can trust Putin. That's the problem. You cannot
You've got
trust
to do
him.
business with him, right?
Yeah. But the thing is, the Ukrainians are fighting what could be our war. And so that's why we have to back it.
I mean, Trump also appears to be saying now to the Europeans, I'm not going to keep helping you out.
Yep.
I mean, ultimately, at some point, you have to defend yourselves, and to a large extent, Britain has led the way in that. So credit to Britain in that sense. But seriously, are we going to see the true face of a lot of the European leaders here? If there is a deal on the table that involves Ukraine surrendering an element of their land, and it stops the fighting, and you see people maybe in NATO or in Europe saying, oh, no, we're not going to do it. I suppose the question is, how many more people do you want to die?
Well, and the other question would be, OK, if, for the sake of argument, the Germans or the French or the Italians or whoever want this war to be prolonged, are they going to provide the sort of support that the Americans and the Brits have provided?
Never mind the North Koreans dying.
Look, they attacked Trump, but when Trump was in power the first time, he got South Korea and North Korea together for the first time in God knows how many years. He's going to do the same here, and he will still be attacked. As I said before, when we weren't on air, Trump could cure cancer, and the left would still say that he did it.
No.
He did it for his ego.
No.
Yeah.
Look,
so he cannot win.
Yeah,
we need peace.
We've got to go. We will come back. So, right, coming up, more front pages for you, plus a bit of this.
This process would deny that. It would deny, well, frankly, Paddington.
Yeah, just ridiculous. A bizarre comment by a Labour MP about Paddington Bear. Stay tuned.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
I'm here in M. Manzi's, which is now the oldest surviving pie and eel shop in London. It's been open since 1892, and as you said in the intro there, it's really sort of a dying breed. One of the sister sites of this shop, the distant relative, owned one of their own other shops in Deptford, and that closed on Saturday for the very last time. They've been open for over 100 years. So you clearly see that there's a declining, not necessarily a declining interest, that's the wrong way of putting it, but it's nowhere near as prevalent as it used to be. This was a staple of the East End, and it's now gone from about 300 shops in the Victorian times to under 40 now, and it's declining further and further. Now, also, a couple of months ago, I was in Basildon talking about a similar story with Richard Holden, trying to create a protected status for pie and mash to prevent sort of copycats from stealing the recipe and making it less authentic. So that is ongoing. There's clearly interest in it, and tourists enjoy coming in here. Hopefully, I'll get one of my own pies shortly and have another taste. But it would be a shame to see this go. It's not just about the pie and the taste and the flavour, which is fantastic. It's also about history and community. A lot of people come in here as regulars, so we're just shining a light on a crucial part of London's historic economy. It's a bit of good fun, and it certainly tastes very good as well. Demographics have changed, yeah, and actually a lot of the ownership, the people who would run these shops traditionally over the last few decades are moving out towards the west, they're moving towards Kent, they're moving towards Sussex, so there are demographic changes, and no doubt that is influencing it as well. And as I say, it's important to do stories like this just to remind people of London's history and why it's important to support these local businesses.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. OK, a few more front pages for you. We've got the Mirror. Trump, Putin's ready for peace talks. Yep, so we've been speaking a lot about that. The Guardian, Trump says he's open talks with Putin to end the war in Ukraine. They've also got on the Times. Yeah, there we go again. Trump and Putin start Ukraine peace talks. So, look, that's leading the way. We just spoke about that in our last section, so I don't think we need to go over that again now, especially because I'd like to talk to you about this. First, it was llamas. Now, Paddington Bear. Have a listen to this.
This process would deny that. It would deny, well, frankly, Paddington. Paddington did the same thing. He came by on a regular route.
Isn't it fair, Stella Creasy,
that we wouldn't give him a passport?
I just said the people who work here behind the scenes sometimes don't get enough credit. That is a fantastic strap. Paddington Mare. Brilliant. Anyway, that's Labour MP Stella Creasy concerned that Paddington Bear would have been denied refugee status in the UK under the new government guidelines in relation to small boats. Good. He's a nightmare.
Oh, come on, dear old Paddington. He's lovely.
But on a serious note, does this not just show the ridiculous people that we've got?
No, she's using an analogy that everybody can understand.
They're 5-year-olds. At the end of the day, they've gone from student politics to infant school politics now.
No,
And
that's
Stella
not
Creasy,
infant school.
I've called her out before on her gender madness, and she blocks me. So
did
the government officials blocking people.
Did Paddington Bear arrive here illegally? Is that I don't know the stories enough.
I don't think he's got a visa, so.
Right, without a visa. So yeah,
he even got access to Buckingham Palace at one point, didn't he?
Oh, that video of him and the Queen was wonderful.
I cried over that.
So I still cry if I see it.
Hugo Benedict Norton-Taylor would take a very sympathetic view of Paddington, I'm sure.
All sorts, couldn't he? Hugo Benedict Norton-Taylor, let him do whatever he wants. Anyway, right, no, but on to a more serious story now. In Australia, 2 nurses have been suspended after posting this unbelievably, sickeningly vile video about, well, supposedly offing Israeli patients. Just have a look at this.
From Israel, from the Holy Land.
You know what? I'm going to be really honest with you.
All right.
I'm going to be really honest with you. You actually got a really, really beautiful eyes.
Thank you,
but
man.
I'm so upset that you're Israeli. Like, eventually you're going to get killed and you're going to go to Jahannam, inshallah.
One day,
your time will come and you will die the most...
Yeah, they went on to say that in their hospital in New South Wales, I believe it is, they were like, oh, you have no idea how many Israelis come in here and we just kill them. So New South Wales Health Minister Ryan Park has launched an investigation after that video was published, and apparently they've been suspended. But I mean, what does that say, man? It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Well, again, I mean, suspended. I mean, I would have thought this is a slam dunk. They should be sacked and struck off, right?
I should investigate some of their previous patients.
I think you can investigate that clip. It should take you all of 30 seconds to say you're not fit to work in the health sector. So I hope there's pretty strict justice here.
Arrested for that. That's incitement. That's disgusting, I've got to say. And unfortunately, there's too many people that have those sort of views in society.
Every single person in a position of power, from the Prime Minister, has condemned it immediately, and they will not, they will not go unpunished. They will not be still in their jobs. I can't imagine.
Do you think it's a criminal offence or merely a sacking offence?
Well, it depends. It depends if it exactly.
Yeah. But, I mean, hopefully they haven't, and it's just been idiots, but I don't know.
It's a hate crime, really.
The health minister, when she was at the press conference, was practically in tears talking about it.
All right, OK. Coming up next, it's Headliners with the wonderful Josh Howie. What's on your show, Josh?
Hey, we are going to be looking at those nurses. The hospital is actually investigating if there's any truth to their claims. We have why Prevent isn't preventing. We have a shortage of DJs in this country, and we've got Lewis Schaefer and Steve and Alan. It's going to be a really great show.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic stuff. Well, Josh, enjoy it, and I'll be watching when I get back home. I'm going to walk past a Paddington Bear statue on the way home, so I'll be looking at you thinking, why did we deport you? No, not really. I'll see you tomorrow at 9. Thanks, it's a great show.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hey, evening. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. We'll keep a lot of cloud tomorrow, and if anything, for many of us feeling a little bit colder, but we should see maybe a few more sunny spells, particularly in parts of the west. We've still got easterly winds with high pressure out east, low pressure out west, and the UK kind of in this no man's land in between. The cloud thick enough for a little bit of drizzle here and there over parts of central and eastern England through the night, but most places staying dry. Clear skies across western Scotland will allow a frost here, and also some frost is likely over northwest England, maybe West Wales, where we do have also some breaks in the cloud. Temperatures elsewhere where it's cloudy, mostly holding up at 2 or 3 Celsius. Still quite breezy on some of these North Sea coasts, but the winds generally a little lighter than they have been through the day today. And as I mentioned, I'm a bit more optimistic for some brighter skies tomorrow. Again, parts of southwest England, West Wales, but even further east, it may brighten up at times. Quite cloudy again for northeast England, eastern Scotland. Scotland, maybe a few breaks in the cloud for Northern Ireland. Certainly some good breaks in the cloud across western Scotland. So some sunny spells here again, but it does, of course, mean overnight we'll see that frost forming. So a chilly start as we go through the day. Not a great deal of change. Probably not as many light showers as today, but still the odd one here and there over the Midlands, eastern England. The winds will pick up in the southwest as we go through the days. We'll start to see cloud thickening here. But generally, further east, the wind's a little lighter than today. But if anything, it's going to be colder. Temperatures only 4 or 5 degrees Celsius. We'll have a frost again, where we've got clear skies through Thursday night into Friday morning. Thicker cloud further west. Some drizzly rain at times for West Wales, Devon, Cornwall and Northern Ireland. Many eastern and central parts dry. But again, a better chance of some breaks in the cloud. Still on the chilly side.